All right, so welcome to Family Camp, our virtual family camp this year, where we are going to today be talking about decoys. Very happy to announce we have our guest instructor today, Karen Acton. Karen is from New Jersey. And are you in New Jersey today, Karen?
I am, yes.
So Karen is calling in from New Jersey. Normally at this time of year, she is on Hog Island helping lead our family camps. So she is no stranger to the island. She teaches many of our art lessons and leads our family camp participants in different artistic endeavors throughout the week. So it's very special to have Karen here. Just a little background about your turns. This turn decoy that you have was made in Maine by the Seabird research staff. Our Audubon researchers conduct research on 7 different islands throughout the southern part of Maine. Mostly we're doing research on puffins, but also we do research on terns. And this is a tern decoy made in our decoy factory, which is on the mainland. For those who have come to Hog Island, when you drive by the buildings, right at the boat entrance to get over to Hog Island, those buildings house our research staff, our office staff, and also our decoy production. So we make them right there in Maine. They're hand painted by our Seabird researchers. And today we're going to try our hand at painting our own decoys. I think all of you probably got a paint kit that came in your box with a brush, your decoy, and your decoy stand. And as I mentioned earlier, your decoy stand is made from driftwood found on Hog Island. So everybody has a different stand. Everyone hold your stands up for the cameras here. Let's see what shapes and sizes we have. Karen's got a really large square. Mine's really small. Many of you have really nice little round ones. Like that. So the round ones were probably made from trees that fell down on Hog Island. These square ones are made from driftwood that washed up on the island. And our staff have created the bases for us from Hog Island, and then of course our decoys that we make. So I'm going to turn things over to Karen to lead us through our lease turn painting. One little thing to note is that there are 4 types of terns that we conduct research on in Maine: the roseate tern, the Arctic tern, the common tern, and the least tern. The least tern is the smallest of all. So that's the one that we're gonna be painting. If you would like to buy or purchase more of our decoys, you can do that on the Project Puffin online store. All the proceeds go back to Seabird Research, and you can request a paint kit for any of those 4 species that we do research on. So that's something, if you like doing this activity or you want to buy it for someone else, definitely go to the Project Puffin visit online store, and you can purchase just the kits. All right, so I'm going to turn things over to Karen, and for the
rest Thank you, Eva.
Yeah, definitely. We're excited to have Karen here. For the rest of you, if you have questions while we're doing things, feel free. We do have the little chat that we sometimes use. You can type your questions in the chat. You can also unmute yourself. But Karen's going to lead us through our painting activity here.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm happy to see all of you here. I'm going to start by just asking you if you have any questions, just random questions before we get started. Okay. All right. Well, all of you, as Eva was saying, you should have your kit. You should have your lease turn. And I painted one side because I wanted to show you, what we're going to be doing today. And then I'm going to demo on this side. So you can see I sort of just split it in half and painted the one side. Before I get started, I'm not going to completely bore you to pieces with feather anatomy, but I did just want to go over a few important facts about feathers, because when we see a bird, we don't necessarily think about all the different types of feathers on a bird. So I made this little chart. And, you know, like I said, I'm not going to go into too much detail here with explaining it, but I did want to encourage you guys to consider doing a little bit of research on the anatomy of just bird feathers, and even the entire bird and the different types of feathers on the bird. And it's pretty cool because most birds have the same groupings of feathers and the same purpose and everything. This evening, it might be afternoon where some of you are, but in New Jersey, it's 6 o'clock right now. Maybe where you are, it might be an hour earlier or 3 hours earlier, depending on from where you are. But so we're not going to be painting real detailed versions of the tern feathers, because this is a decoy, and decoys are meant to catch the eye of the other terns that fly into that area. And a decoy is a very basic painted form. But we are going to be doing the mantle and the crown, and then of course the beak. We're not going to be doing anything else because everything else is white. So check out some bird feather anatomy when you have a chance, okay? I'm just gonna put that down here. All right, so what you should have with you, I'm gonna try to get this so you can see the table here more. You should have your picture, and if you want to, for this demo, you can just choose to watch what I do, and then later on go back and rewind it and watch a little bit, pause it, rewind it, and you can take your time and do it. But I'm going to just show you how to do it while we're here on this little project opportunity. So here you have this that they sent you in the mail, and then you should have your piece of paper that gives you the list of supplies that they sent, and also the instructions. So what I did is, sorry if you can't see me, but that's really okay with me. I'm just going to show you how to get started. What I used for underneath, so I don't get any paint on the table, is that plastic piece of puffy sealed air that came in the box. I pinned it and put all the air out of it, and I made that my surface. You know, it's good to reuse things like that, right? So, and then I put these in warm water, and that helps to open them. So if yours got a little bit stuck, I'm going to assume they did, because it's acrylic, and acrylic does that in a matter of a half an hour. So it's not even like they were in the box for, even if they were in the box for a half an hour, they would still get stuck. So you open your little containers, and what you do first is you can either mount the decoy on there, or to get leverage, you can hold it in your hand. I held it in my hand when I did it. So the first thing I did was I really studied the colors of the tern on that page. I really wanted to understand the direction of the feathers and really like where it comes down from the crown, and when does it start to go around this way. So I used a pencil to draw my line. So it doesn't have to be perfect, but I'll just show you what I did here. I'll draw the line darker. So I draw the line like this. And for me, it just seems a little bit easier to draw it while I'm holding it. It just feels like a more organic process. So I'll bring this around this way. And again, I'm just drawing the line where the feathers are going to go. And like they really stress on the directions. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? And then I'm going to draw this part, the crown. All right. And then like this and around the forehead, like that. And then we're going to start by painting just the gray mantle. And you want to use that chisel, I call it a chisel tip brush, that flat, bigger brush. And I'm going to give you some pointers about how much paint to use and how much, you know, control you really need to have. So, Walter, you can certainly contact Hog Island, and you can email Eva about that as far as doing a puffin, and they would send just the same way. If it is something that they are sending out right now, they would send you a puffin decoy, and you would be able to do that. So because this obviously isn't a puffin form, we're painting the form of the feathers on a least turn. So I'm going to show you when you use paint. There's different parts of a brush, and this is important. This part right here, this metal part, is called the ferrule. And the ferrule is what pinches and holds all the bristles together. And you don't want to get paint down into the ferrule because it kind of compromises the integrity of the shape of the brush. So when we paint, we try to just get paint on the, you know, the front part of the bristles instead of dipping it all the way in and getting the entire brush covered with paint, because the brush won't work as well. So we're going to start by, I'm going to actually turn this upside down here so I can show you. I like to go right up to the edge of the line I drew, like right with the flat part of the brush. Just go right up to the edge. Like that. And you don't have to use a lot of paint. You guys, I know you probably saw I really only put a little bit of paint on the brush. Just even distribution, a little bit of paint at a time. Right now I'm kind of pushing around the paint that's already on there. Right? So as you can see the difference in color? This is light and this is dark. Acrylic paint dries 3 shades darker than the color you see when it's wet. So this color right here that looks lighter will dry this color. So don't worry if it looks a little bit splotchy when you start painting. It's just because some areas are dry and some areas are wet, and the wet paint is always going to be lighter. So I work from the top of the mantle and just kind of fan the brush carefully down this way, even distribution. And also with the paint, less is more, okay? You do not have to lop a whole bunch of paint on your brush because that's when it can get a little bit messy. Now I'm gonna go around here. Notice where my pinky is. Where's my pinky finger? Right here? It's on a dry part. Oh, there goes a motorcycle. It's on a dry part of the turn. And that helps me to anchor the rest of my hand. if I just hold my arm up like this and start painting like this, I have no control at all. But you should always anchor your body somewhere, your elbow, your hand, and that gives you a great sense of stability and control over the brush. Right now, my pinky is actually controlling how, the pressure on the brush. So leverage meaning, you don't want your body to be just like suspended like this, and you're just kind of painting in the air, because that's when you can run into some, making some mistakes. All right, so I'm going to put leverage now on the turn. I'm going to put the tail down here on the table, and my hand right here, my hand is very stable, this hand. And now the turn is completely stable and it won't move. And now I'm just going to paint this part. There's, a lot to think about when you paint, even just a small area like this of one color. There's a lot to think about. How much paint do you need? Am I using the brush at the right angle? Should I be using a smaller brush instead for a smaller area? Of course, right? Small brush, small area, larger brush, large area. Some of my students at school, I'm a high school art teacher, and some of my students at school, I'll talk about the brush size and what kind of brush to use for what areas. And sometimes maybe they didn't hear me or they forgot, and I'll go by their desk and they'll be working, in this huge area of their painting with a tiny little brush. I'm like, get a bigger brush, right? Okay, so that is the one side that I just painted, right? I'm going to put that down on its side, and it's still just a little bit wet, but that doesn't mean I can't paint another area. So while this is drying, I am going to paint the beak yellow. Of course I would use yellow, right? And what brush am I supposed to use for the beak? Somebody tell me. Lucy or Abby or Caroline? What brush should I use? Can you hear me? I'll use this one. Oh, small. Oh, I'm sorry. I saw it in the chat. It's down at the bottom of my screen. Yes, the small one, of course, right? So we'll get the yellow. And again, look, just a little bit. Just a little bit on the tip, not down in the ferrule. And I'm just going to paint that on. Nice and slow and steady. A lot of times our minds work faster than our hands or our body, and we want to just like get it all done. But just like with anything, it's important to slow down and do a nice job and really pay attention to what you're doing. So now I'm putting my pinky right here. I'm pressing it down into the table to get stability, and then I'm going to go real carefully this way with the brush. All right, and then I'm going to turn it this way. Turn it this way, get it? Turn. And then once these colors dry, you can put at least one more layer on. However much paint you have in your little containers, that's all of the paint you can use. There's nothing wrong with going back over acrylic paint. It will dry the same color as the other layers. So I encourage you, once you do that first layer of gray, go over it again when it's all dry. All right. And then now we're going to do the crown. Now I just got paint on my finger and I don't want to get that on the white part of the bird. So always have a wet paper towel. This is a damp paper towel. So I'm just going to wipe my hand off so I can touch, you know, the whole bird again. Now we're going to do the crown, the crown of the bird. Wash out your brush. If any of you have any questions so far, all right. Also, it's a good idea to keep your brush, the form of it, pointed, you know, to keep that in the integrity of the tip of it, right? So if it's wet from the water, you don't want it to be dripping wet, and then you get some paint and it sort of drips down on the form. So you want to make sure that the brush, I usually do that just with my finger. I squeeze some of the water out of it and I pull this in this direction so the bristles stay at a point. All right. And then get some black. This is the black for the crown. It's not the black for the eye. The black for the eye is a shinier gloss finish. The paint we are using is more of a matte finish. Matte is dull and no shine, and of course glossy is shiny. So I'm actually not going right to the edge yet. Can you see? Sorry if you can't see real well. I'm not going right to the edge yet, to the drawn line. I'm staying above that on the crest of the head. And again, just a little bit of paint is so much better at a time than a lot of paint, especially in smaller areas. My pinky finger is on the other side here, and it's kind of cradling the bird. Again, now I'm following along that drawn line that I have. And now I'll go this way. Everyone has a different approach to different, projects like this. If it's more comfortable for you to keep the decoy on the stand and paint it and turn it around as it goes, I would suggest that you put a little bit of wood glue on this, and then just such a small layer of wood glue, and then just put it on there, because these can like fall off while you're painting it, and you don't want that to happen, especially if the paint is wet. All right. Any questions so far at all? Okay. Now I'm gonna do the other side of the beak there. See how the tip of the beak has black on it? Make sure any layers of paint are dry, fully dry, before you put another layer on. You don't want to work with wet acrylic over wet acrylic because it can start to cake up and it can get pretty messy. So I'm going to go like this, very carefully, just a little bit of paint on my brush. And then we have the tip, right? Now some of you might have pencil marks, like I do. I have pencil marks showing here, and I don't want those to show up when I'm all finished. So when the turn is completely painted, all finished, then I can go in and erase some of the pencil lines that are still showing around the turn with a very clean eraser, all right? And if you don't have a clean eraser, the way to clean it off is to just, use a blank piece of paper and just keep erasing on the piece of paper until the eraser is clean. I know that sounds very logical, and most of you know that, but just a little reminder. Because if the eraser is dirty, it has graphite on it from a pencil, and you go on here to erase the pencil lines, you might get a smudge of the dirty eraser, and it's hard to get those smudges off, right? The last part we do is that the lower line of black along the bottom of the feathers there. And that is probably going to be the more challenging part of the process for you guys. But they have white paint in the container, so if you don't get like a real fine line and you don't like the line you drew or painted, you can go back over it with white and just, fix it however you want to fix it. But what I did for when I painted my black line is, again, I anchored the turn down on the table, and I just really, not too much paint, like that much. See? Can you see how much? Just a little bit of black. Tiny bit of black. See what I'm doing? And I have a little bit of water in the brush, so it's easy to paint the line. And then I'll go over that again with more black a little bit later. I'm going to show you another way to do it. You can paint a thicker line of black because it might be hard to get a really fine line, and then you can go back over the white part to close in on that black area and make it a thinner line. So that, I'll show you. I'm going to put it on the stand. So we have the cap, the mantle, sides, right? And then you're probably thinking, what about the eyes? So the eyes, you're not going to really be able to see on the demo the eyes, because they're pretty much like right in this area in the cap of the head. So you will see it when the paint is dry, because this part will be kind of like not real shiny, but the eye will be shiny because it's shiny paint. And to do the eye, the same thing, you guys. You just want to make sure you have that brush nice and damp and pointy. And get just a little bit. Now, watch what I do here. So I'm getting some of the paint, and then I'm going along the edge, and I'm sort of scraping the bristles along the edge, but I'm not going all the way to the end. And you see that little ball of paint on there? it's like a perfect little eye, right? I'm gonna get some more. I'm gonna go like this. I have this little kind of dab of paint on the tip of the brush. Keep checking your fingers, making sure there's no wet paint on them. And I'm just gonna put the eye right there. You can't really see it though because all the paint is still kind of wet, but it's right there. Just a little dab of shiny black paint. And that's pretty much it. I think it's wonderful. Hopefully you guys are familiar with some of these projects where they're using decoys to regain the population of birds that are endangered and on the brink of even extinction sometimes. Specifically, the Puffin Project was a beautiful outreach to the puffin community. So I wish you all well with your lease to turn project. And what I would like to do is encourage you to practice first on a piece of paper if you can. If you're already just so enthused and you want to just go right to it, go for it. If you don't like the outcome, and there's not enough white paint, you can sand it down a little bit with like a fine sandpaper. The whole thing, the paint won't fully come off, but it will create a nice smooth surface and give the surface a little bit of what we call a tooth. And you can paint over it with primer, like house primer that you use on a wall before you paint a wall. And that's pretty much it, you guys. Do you have any questions? No? And I also want to encourage you, if you love to draw or you love to paint and you just love the idea of creating art projects, there's just so many opportunities. There's a guy that I love, and we sell his books up on Long Island. His name is John Muir Laws, and he's like my hero. This book I got in the bookstore at Hog Island, and it's called The Law's Guide to Drawing Birds. And I can assure you that this book will change your entire perspective on your ability, on your own personal confidence, your ability to draw. For example, I have a student who is, he's not a traditional artist. He's not a gifted, naturally talented artist, which is a lot of people, right? Everybody has their gifts. And this boy came into my class petrified of drawing, and he was so scared of making a mistake. And one day I said, Glenn, I'm going to give you this piece of paper, and I want you to follow along with what it tells you to do. And he drew a bird based on some of the tutorials that are in this book. He followed each step, and the bird he drew was so beautiful. He talked about it for a year. He said it was the best drawing he ever did in his life. And, it really encouraged him, and it helped him feel more confident about drawing. So John Muir Laws, and also there's another book about nature journaling, which is a wonderful way to document your experience in the natural world when you're out hiking and stuff like that. So best of luck with your turn. Looks like so look, see, I got some black paint there. I'll just go over that with the gray paint when it's dry. All right. Hey, Eva, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for going over that demo, I
Sure.
quickly just show the group. I'm going to share a couple of photos from our researchers where we have used decoys in the field. I'll show you that so you get a little context. So this first photo here is our researchers painting lots of decoys. We still hand paint our decoys. The ones that you have today were primed by our Audubon researchers. And then very much like this photo, we will paint them, and now we ship them out to research projects all over the world. One thing that you'll notice with these is that the decoys, we've definitely changed them over the years and done some experiments to see what type of decoy works best. Kind of like what Karen was saying earlier, it's not about getting the precise feather detail on the decoy. It's really about the shape and the color. So like, for instance, when you look at this decoy, it doesn't even really have the shape of a tern, but that color pattern and the right shape was enough to convince them that it could be a potential tern. And they certainly will attract other seabirds to nest nearby. So these decoys are a way to attract other seabirds to come, because most of these seabirds really like to nest in a colony. And so when they're in that colony, they want to have other seabirds around them. They don't want to be the only seabird out there nesting by themselves. So that's why we use these decoys. And you can use them for any of the tern species. We've used them for other things like puffins, guillemots, murres, albatross, really big, huge seabirds called albatross. And we're able to make them there in Maine and ship them out to all these different research projects. Just to give you an example, so our least tern is the one that you're making today. And it is the smallest tern. We actually use the same decoy body for other species. So what we'll do is we'll just paint it in different ways. So this is a bridled tern, and you can see it's different. It's got a, it's the same shape, different colors for the different species. Here's one. This one is a black tern, all black body, gray wings, very different from our least tern, same exact decoy that we'll use. So we will use these decoys for multiple species depending on the type that we're trying to attract.
Hey, Eva, I have a quick question.
Sure.
I think it was Milo. Milo, were you the one who asked about if you could paint a puffin?
No.
No.
Well, we do have these paint your own tern decoys. That's what we're currently selling. We do have puffin decoys for sale that have been painted already. But these paint your own kits we just developed this summer. We also have, around the holidays, a tern tree topper. So a little hat on these. You notice it's got that nice little hole in the bottom.
Yeah.
If you don't glue it down to your base, you can put them on top of your Christmas tree. We sell them as a fundraiser. Definitely you can check out our online store to see what other decoys we have out there. And then researchers from all over the world will contact us for specific species that they're trying to bring back.